All right, gather round, my lovely football-obsessed deviants. Welcome to the Global Street Soccer Podcast. We're talking legends, we're talking lineage, we're talking Diego Maradona's bloodline coursing through the veins of our guest. The one, the only, Thiago Maradona is joining us in the studio. We want to know what it's like to grow up with Diego's magic in your DNA. And how does street football ignite that raw, untamed energy we're all craving? It's cheeky, it's profound, it's street soccer with a dash of destiny. Let's get stuck in.
On the board, yeah, I'm on the board, yeah, I'm on the board, yeah, and if you don't know, now you know I'm on the board, yeah, I'm on the board.
So Thiago, welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
Absolute GOAT. We know we live quite closely together in the local area, so it's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. My first question, we're going to get straight into it. So, growing up with the name Maradona, what is the first question people usually ask?
There's a lot, but I mean, like the most obvious one here in America has always been, or are you rich too?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
But other than that, it's mostly what's your favorite goal? And to answer that really quick, my favorite goal is the free kick against Juventus.
Okay.
Inside the box. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, he curls it in.
Right.
Like, just chipping it, like, right over the wall.
I remember it, yeah.
It's my favorite goal, and I think it's his best goal, personally.
What's the question that you wish people would ask more rather than the initial question?
Just how he was, you know. For me, at least, because people get the stigma from him, just the things he's done outside of football, and people make mistakes, but I wish they would just ask me about who he was as a person for me, because he was much more than what people really think he was.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you have a personal story of your uncle, and, you know, to show the audience like a different side to him maybe that wasn't portrayed in the media or on the field? Is there anything that stands out as a memory that's like that shows him in a different light?
Yeah. In 2010, after we lost to Germany 4-0 in South Africa in the World Cup, I was with him from the moment we left the field all the way to where we went back to Argentina together, and I've never seen him so defeated, knowing how great he was and how much charisma he always had. And it just really showed a different side for me, at least, and not a lot of people ever get to see that side of him. And yeah.
Right. So he was devastated when that happened.
I mean, I've never seen him cry.
Right.
That was the only time. His love for Argentina, I think it got displayed to me right there, because for him it was his country and that was it when in terms of football. So yeah, it was really, really hard. I was also 9-10 years old, so it was hard on me too, because he was my idol. Yeah, man, it was hard.
So what, you know, things like that, moments like that, to be around such, you know, monumental moments in the game. Okay, so from a fan's point of view, like me, from the outside looking in, it's like, you know, just even getting close to the name Maradona from a little boy in England who used to wear the number 10 Argentina jersey is quite. I have goosebumps just thinking about Maradona sometimes, you know, and the moments that he's gave the sport. But yeah, to be on the inside and see those moments of sadness and moments of like real passion, like you said, love for his country. I mean, it's almost those things at times were displayed in those moments, but to be a kind of fly on the wall, I think everybody would want to know that, almost like what he was like and things like that. So with regards to like those moments and how he was, that like obviously knowing him very well, how did that influence you and the way you got into soccer and played soccer, and how that kind of changed your perspective on the game?
From a young, I mean, the first memory I have was my dad always telling me about how great my uncle was.
Right.
So that being said, I just grew up idolizing him. I watched every video, movie, documentary that has ever existed on him. And in terms of how it impacted like the way I played and the way I view the game, um, it's very much think for yourself. And he also taught me that you learn more by playing with the ball on your own, meaning going outside, kicking it against the wall, or playing with friends. Like I used to play World Cup, and it was just that. That's how he influenced me playing, like playing wise. It was just always, going outside and playing on your own and with your friends, and just basically honing skills that maybe a coach can't teach you because you learn them on your own.
Wow. Well, I think, seeing him play and seeing him kind of move the ball, and he was so ahead of his time. He did things that no one had seen before. And my career in soccer has took me to working with freestylers and street players and all these crazy content creators these days and all that sort of stuff. But also players also like Messi and all those people. And he's had so much influence on all of that. The things, I never saw anyone do like an around the world with the ball, or, slicing the ball and spinning it in the air. So I think a lot of people don't realize how, like in the modern day, how influential he was on the style of play. I always say, like, would Messi be Messi without Maradona before him? I feel like there's a lot of similarities in how they play. But Christian, I think this could be a good moment to show the Life is Life, famous Life is Life clip of Diego on the screen. It's the first time we've done this, actually. So, oh, you're up there? Oh, yeah, nice. This is warming up for a game. Who does this now? I mean, it's just like...
One thing he always told me was warming up like this is very important, because you get a different touch and feel for the ball, and you just get into your own world,
So obviously there's like famous music now. I mean, this video clip has made this song even more famous, right? I would never listen to this music, but this song is actually like cool as without swearing. Just amazing, like, and just to see his like rhythm, like, and him dancing to the music before the game. Like, I mean, he's almost been described as like a freak of nature in the past, hasn't he? Like, in the nicest possible way. But the way he like could do this, like so effortlessly with the ball, like to music. He's got his laces untied, and when he came along, it was just like, what's this? This is like this is not a human being. It's almost supernatural almost. So what's it like watching that back? And, I'm sure you've seen it many times, but how does it make you feel watching it?
I mean, again, he's, aside from him being my idol and everything, he's my best friend. So anytime I see a video of him or a clip on Instagram, wherever it may be, which is a lot of times, but it's emotional because he's not here. And yeah, it's just seeing that video, it just shows the type of like player he was. It was just no care. It was just him and the ball always, and I think that's really important for players to understand, and they should watch. My uncle and my dad were also a very big advisors of watching other players, as much highlights as you can, as much soccer as you can, because you learn by watching too.
Right.
It all ties together.
Right.
But, yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that. I think for me, I'm 10 years old. I'm in a town called Walsall in England, just outside Birmingham. And I remember wearing the Maradona 10, and it was like a fake one that was cheap, that my parents could afford. But I'm in the back garden and playing. I think my brother had a Germany Lotus Matthias, whatever his name is. But I had the best one because I had the Maradona. But I think that's the first stage of soccer, street soccer as well. Same with basketball, where you are playing without a coach. You're wearing your hero's jersey, and you're almost pretending to be them in the backyard or on the school playground. It's like the absence of the coach, which is kind of our positioning and what we're all about, global street soccer. But the first stage is emulating your heroes. So in basketball, it's the kid that lives in New Jersey wearing the Jordan 23. Yeah. Trying to be Jordan in his back garden. And I think that's what is missing in today's society, is that the kids are playing soccer or training soccer, and there's an absence of their imagination. And when I watch those like old school clips of these mavericks like Maradona, and just seeing him with the ball, like he just perceived the ball in a completely different way to anybody else, and you can see he's just playing with total imagination and creativity. Yeah. And it's like pure football. And it's like the reason why we started this podcast is because we wanted to be more vocal. And I think we shared this when we had a coffee on Maradona's birthday, believe it or not, which was weird, a completely weird timing, right? But I think, we share the same passions, and we see that the game has become, robotic in a sense. So in your opinion, like, how can we kind of save the game from this kind of trajectory that it's on? Mm-hmm. And how can we kind of help the world of soccer, like bring more players through like Diego Maradona?
Yeah. I think that especially here in the States, there's not as much emphasis on soccer as there is many other sports. Unfortunately, most fields aren't free and open to play for anyone. Mm-hmm. Most times you'll go to a field and a park ranger, the park security comes and he's like, you need a permit to play. And it's just a group of 10, 15-year-olds that just, want to just enjoy their time playing ball, and they're being told no constantly.
Right.
And I think that kind of takes away because, again, like you said, they're being trained to play soccer instead of learning to play.
Right.
And again, the best way to learn is by going out and playing on your own.
Right.
And I think if soccer becomes more accessible here in the States, it'll be much better for kids and the development of players going forward. And a really big issue also here in the States is the pay-to-play system. The pay-to-play system, you essentially alienate a certain demographic from playing because they're low-income families. But those are the hungriest kids. Right. Those are the kids that want to play. They want to learn.
Right. Right.
And I think that is the biggest takeaway from all of this is football was created in the streets,
Right.
you know, and taking that away from kids is
Right.
not good.
Well, yeah, I think there's, not just us, but many people have kind of vocalized the problems in US soccer, and obviously the pay-to-play model is one of the main ones. And it is true, because I think from coaches like us, from our perspective, is that one of the hardest things to instill in a young player is that will and hunger. It's almost the hardest thing to coach. If they haven't got the desire, I mean, you can have a kid that turns up at the session like one day a week and they'll follow it and go along, but are they going home? Like, one of my old mentors said, like, the kids in England, for example, or maybe more advanced economies, they want to be a soccer player when they grow up, where the kids in, say, Uruguay or different parts of South America need to be a soccer player. So there's that, like, getting 4 buses to go to the training session. Like Mo Salah from Egypt, he said the other day, when he was as a youth player in Egypt, he'd get 4 buses just to go to training each day, and then 4 buses on the way back. Can you imagine, like, some of the kids in the States in these middle to upper class families? That's just not going to be.
No.
That no one's that dedicated.
No.
So it's like, I agree. It's almost those kids that cannot afford soccer in the US are the ones that could potentially and have the potential within them to be the better players.
Yeah, man. I mean, growing up playing here in Florida, you would see kids that would be so good, and then it become a financial stress for the family for them to keep playing, and they'd stop.
Right.
And I think that's wrong in any sport,
Right.
any sport. Sports should be something that we encourage kids to do,
Right.
from any demographic, any whatever.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, I agree. So I think with what you're doing now, you're coaching, right? You've just started on your own coaching journey.
Yeah.
I think we spoke about it. I started coaching around 27, and you're doing that now with a high school team and also with a high school team. So what does that look like for you? Like, are you looking to move up the ladder as coaching? And how? Another question I'll throw in is, like, how is it carrying that name, one of the most famous, if not the most famous footballing name, into a professional environment? Is there any pressure or?
I mean, there's always like a little bit of pressure and questions and this and that, but I think that I don't necessarily think about the pressures of my last name. It's about the job I'm willing to do, and the work that I'm willing to put in because of what I believe in terms of my footballing philosophy. But nothing, man. Going into coaching, the reason why I did it is because growing up, I had great coaches here in Florida. But now there's good players and bad coaches. Like you said, they're being taught how to play in a mechanical way, like we talked about the other day, where they do 100 passing drills and it's all the same movement, And I think that's kind of what I want to change when you brought up the question, let's change football. Like, I think that's a way to start, and that's why I got into coaching, essentially.
Brilliant. So to go back a step a little bit, so I think one of the things people don't realize, because your uncle was so famous, okay, is that your dad was also a top player. All right, so he played in Serie A, Italian league, and in my research, he actually played for Napoli when Maradona was there. Is that true?
He got bought by Napoli, but couldn't play with my uncle because at the time there was a cap for only 2 foreign players per team, and Gareca came, and my dad was 17 at the time, and he not going to outperform Gareca,
okay,
top goal scorer. So he got loaned out to Ascoli, but never got the chance to actually play.
But Ascoli were in the top flight
Yes.
Italian league also. All right, so, and also, Diego had another brother, Raul,
Yes.
and he was also a professional.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so you've got the best DNA possible.
Yeah.
For football. So I'm expecting big things from you going forward.
Thank you.
So with the name, going back to the name Maradona and the kind of communities around the world and in the streets, what has been your like response when you've gone out and worked with kids? You know, when you've mentioned like who you are, and do you feel a responsibility of carrying that name forward? In a positive way.
Yes, of course. Kids ask me all types of questions again, but the responsibility part, I think that it is a big responsibility of mine to not only give kids the knowledge that was passed down to me from my father and my uncle, but to also just show them a right way of doing things, not only on the pitch but outside too. I think that's the biggest lesson that was taught to me when I started coaching was it's not always about what a player can do inside of the pitch. It's about how they are outside of a pitch as well.
Okay.
So
you feel from obviously Maradona was controversial in the sense that way he lived his life off the field, like many great players. George Best, for example, in the UK, and some of these enigmatic names and players. Even Paul Gascoigne, they say, was who played for Lazio, right, and played against Maradona. So it's almost these like geniuses have it's almost tainted genius to a degree, and it's almost like, is that what made them also great? Like there's lots of theories out there. With modern society and with technology and social media and all these kind of diversions and distractions for young players, like how do you feel like if Diego Maradona was growing up in this generation, how do you feel those things would have impacted him? Because it feels like there's even more of a magnification and more of a spotlight on the players now, because it's like social media is just so intense, and everyone's eyeballs and sharing stuff. And how would that have impacted him, do you think, from a player development point of view and also from a media like spotlight point of view?
probably negatively, I think. Nowadays you hear about wonder kids all the time, correct? And some of them are 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, Lamine Yamal, for example. And it's hard to live up to the hype, man. Like you could have all the skills, all the tools in the world, but the pressure sometimes gets too much. And we also got to remember, like, they're kids. And I feel like Diego at the time, if he were around now, like growing up, and he was the next wonder kid, maybe it would affect him negatively, but who knows,
Yeah, it's hard to know. I always say, like, we have these comparisons of like these players would the players from the past been able to perform in the modern game, and the modern game players been able to perform in the game in the past. I think this might be a good moment to show, arguably, in my opinion, the greatest goal ever. My dad will like this goal because my dad's from Scotland and he hates England. So
shout out your dad.
Let's have a look. Christian, he's behind the camera. He knows what he's doing sometimes. So yeah, I think this actually got voted as the greatest goal ever.
It's hard to beat it, and the commentary is really good on it too.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I am an England fan, but again, I was wearing not that jersey, but the one with the stripes when I was a kid. So to actually wear the jersey of someone who knocked your country out of the World Cup shows how much love this guy generated for people around the world because he was so good. All right, but watching that, I'm guessing that was what year was that?
86.
86. So it was before you were born.
Yeah.
So at what point did you, in your life, were you shown this video, and like what's it like watching it back?
I mean, 6, 7 years old.
Okay.
It's like the first thing I remember watching from him. But that goal, I think, like it just shows the type of player he was. Give me the ball and let me just beat players one-on-one. It was his thing. I think it's the perfect way to measure up a street player. The creativity, the just flowing and just having the ball at your feet. And you got to understand, my uncle grew up in a place called Villa Fiorito in Argentina. Rough neighborhood, and the field is all just rubble. So the ball's just bouncing while you're dribbling it. So him growing up like that and leading up to that World Cup goal was just, I think, just all a culmination of just his street smarts and just the way he grew up. And sorry, but it's the greatest goal against your country. But
not the best goal.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have a video downloaded for the goal, but if you check out the free kick against Juventus on YouTube, I think everyone who's gonna be listening and watching to this is gonna do that after for sure. If you're saying it's a better goal than that, so I don't know. I'll have to watch it.
I'm a sucker for free kicks, so.
Well, that's good. So funny that you say that with regards to the surfaces that the kids play on sometimes, and if you've got a lot of money, you're going to play on a nice grass. You can play futsal on a flat surface. But when I watched those types of goals, and like you said, it's almost Diego's playing exactly how he did when he was almost playing like he's in the streets, but in one of the biggest games ever, right? So It's like, it's almost, he's not thinking about anything. He's just playing with pure joy when he's out there. And I always think that, like you said, these uneven surfaces, it actually lends itself well to skill development, because if you can't read where the ball's going to be all the time, or it's going to take it's going to deviate, or, you have to then improvise. You have to be like slightly moving your feet in a different way to make sure you can control the ball. And then obviously when you go into these like high pressurized environments, when you've got 5 players on you, you have these high level improvisation skills. And one of my main gripes is seeing a lot of these academies that are just drilling players like the same L turn over and over again. And then you've got 20 players in the same class, all moving their body in exactly the same way as the coach. And they all execute all the same skills as each other. And in my opinion, if you do that at scale, you'll end up with no unique players. No. Right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
And that was, one of the main reasons, because social media is a problem, because that type of content can actually go far. And a lot of people think, oh, that's how you get good at soccer. That's how you're going to, because these academies can attract top players, and then they drill them, and then it kind of looks good in a way. But I would say if you practice dribbling around a cone all the time, like doing the same skill, you're going to get good at dribbling around a cone. At what point? Because at the end of the day, when you are dribbling in a real game, you have to respond to that player's movement, the player on your own team's movement.
Yeah. Again, training like that, I don't think it's realistic. Like you said, I mean, you could practice an L turn or how to turn and give a pass all you want, but it's not going to simulate what's going to happen in a game.
Exactly.
That's why when I coach, we'll do a couple drills, shooting, crossing, defending drills and such, but mostly I let them play, because at the end of the day, they're kids, so they're constantly learning, and what better way to learn than just putting them in-game situations in practice. Right. And I tell them, you could fail all you want here. Try it. Try taking someone on. Try shooting from 30 yards out. But yeah, I think training the way academies do is maybe good for top players that are already established themselves as in playing wise and stuff. But for kids that are, starting to play the game, it's not a good way to coach them, I think. Personally, I may be wrong, but hey, like
everybody's got their own. That's football. I mean, everyone's got their own opinion on that. But I think at scale, especially in the modern world now, how society has changed. I think according to the American Pediatric Association, from a generation before, there's been a 30% reduction in play in the current, youth, and not just playing soccer. I'm on about playing outside in general. So they're on their iPads, they're on social media. Parents have become very protective over their children because obviously there's crime and all these things in the streets. So when a kid goes to soccer practice and the coach tells them they're not going to play, it's like, you know yourself, like you can have a group of kids and you ask them at the start, the coach, oh, what do you want to do today? If you ask maybe one off, and they all say, oh, can we play a game? And then the coach will say, no, it's going to be all about me for the next 50 minutes, and then you can play for like 10 minutes at the end. And it didn't make sense, in my opinion, back then. But even now, I think coaches have to take into consideration that society has changed a lot. So I think the play is even more important than it ever was. And I think we spoke about this as well, as it's going a bit viral on the internet. But I think there's two things affecting the outcome with what the players are like in the modern game. And I think from the bottom up is the problem we discussed, is that the kids aren't playing freely enough with the absence of the coach. And some of the kids in the US specifically can't afford to join the travel teams, and they want it the most. But from the top down, you've got the Guardiola effect. Okay, so how does that, that's almost like what I call a shit sandwich.
Yeah.
So how does that, at the top end, a coach like him, how has that impacted the game, in your opinion, with the players coming through?
I think Guardiola is enemy number one in this topic. He's a great coach, no doubt. He's always, in my personal opinion, he's always inherited teams that have had these great players. For example, Barcelona, Messi, a bunch of Iniesta, Xavi, a bunch of these guys, right? And he would win. Next club, win. Manchester City, now win, right? I think it just becomes an attractive model for other coaches, professional coaches, to try to play his style, because they're like, well, if he's winning every game like this, it must be, the winning way. And I think that over maybe the last 5 years, the game creatively in the professional environment has gone down.
Yes.
Because it's very robotic. They play Guardiola ball where it's just touch until you're all at the final third and hopefully you score, right? But yeah, that's my only opinion on that personally. But yeah.
So with regards to like the top end of the game has been obviously impacted by Guardiola's style, because teams like Brighton have emulated it. Even Liverpool's coach now, he's a big fan of Guardiola, so it's, he went and watched his training sessions and stuff like that. My main concern for the young players is I see a lot of things on social media where it could be a U11 team in Florida that is playing in a Guardiola style, and you'll see them do this great like passing goal, or perceived as a great goal, but really the players are so spread out, and then the other team's not that good. You can see they're not really getting close to the ball.
Yeah.
So I think to the untrained eye, it's like, okay, that coach is great, and the way he's got them playing is great, and they just score that great passing goal like Guardiola. But the way I see it is those players individually, when they do go to the highest level, haven't got the way to deal with the ball when they're really under pressure, or
No, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
Like, again, like the coaching style now for young kids is that too. It's just spread the other team out and just touch it around them and just get to goal.
Right.
But like you said, it dumbs down the creativity from an early age, which
Right.
is like what we don't want, like we as you and I. Yeah, I think that coaches should look at older teams per se, like 2006 Brazil, one of the craziest teams
Oh yeah.
ever assembled. never won a World Cup, but they played beautiful football, right? Again, like you look at those Brazilian teams or Argentinian teams, it's never just them passing the ball around. They're always trying to create, whether it's Messi, Neymar, who have you. But kids have to be creative on the ball because, like you said, when they get to a professional environment, they don't have those tools, and now they're just playing how they were taught,
Right.
and it's not good.
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, the journey to Manchester City's team, as a young player, like, I think people forget that, in Guardiola's book, he says like a prerequisite for the players that he signs, he does want them to be able to dribble and handle the ball under pressure. Even the goalkeeper, like Edison, is like good on the ball. But the players like, Jack Grealish, Riyad Mahrez, even like Raheem Sterling, they're actually like, before they get to Man City, they were individualistic dribblers. Even Kevin De Bruyne, even Gabriel Jesus. So these players, when you watch them, there's the clips of Gabriel playing futsal in Brazil, and he's doing all these crazy step overs and all these skills. People don't realize that to get to that point, you have to have all the skills and the you have to be able to like handle the ball under pressure. And then I see like a U9 team in a part of the world playing Guardiola football, and I'm thinking, well, you're copying like the final result, and you're actually detrimental to actually helping them get there.
Yeah.
So I think two things are affecting the game: top down and bottom up. And obviously, global street soccer is gonna like help save the planet. All right, dolphins, anything, we're gonna save it all. All right, so Thiago, you've been an absolute amazing guest. We are gonna start drawing to a close, so we're gonna end with some fun questions.
All right.
So the first one, are you ready?
Yeah.
What is your go-to move in a street soccer game?
The rollover. Step over. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's my favorite one.
Really good. Messi or Maradona, who wins in a 1v1?
Maradona.
Right. I thought you might say that.
Yeah.
I agree, but why?
I think my uncle was just much more tenacious on the ball, like going at you at 100 miles an hour, and it was either him or the ball. That's the only way I could describe trying to defend him. It's either you hit him or you try to get the ball, which was nearly impossible. And I also think Diego was much quicker too off the step. So Diego for sure.
I know we spoke about this before off camera, but in Argentina, there's always this comparison of Maradona and Messi. Like, who's the best? Who was the best? Like how volatile does that get? Like, does it cause a lot of arguments? How passionate do people get about
that? It's either you're one side or the other. But it gets nasty. It gets really nasty. I mean, if I watch Argentinian sports news all the time, and when they bring up that question, it's like the older generation of reporters and stuff are all Maradona, and then the other younger generation are all Messi, Messi, Messi. So it's opinions. It's whoever you think. But me personally, I think that Diego is Messi's great. Messi's the number one player in the last 15, 20 years. But Diego is just one step above that, like immortal.
Oh yeah, he's a god. He's a god. So in Argentina, there's like churches, right? There's like, I was reading about this religion of Maradona, that the Argentinian people will actually go to a church of Maradona and pray to him. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure on his birthday they do like a huge like ceremony and stuff. I've seen videos. I've never personally gone, but I bet it's crazy.
Because I was like, I did see a clip of it many years ago, and seeing it online, I was just like this is the maddest thing ever. The power of this guy and how influential he was, and people still, loving him so much today. Last question: if you could play a street soccer match anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Anywhere?
Anywhere in the world, street soccer.
Brazil.
In Brazil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of Brazilian football. I mean, aside from Diego, my idol, absolute idol growing up was Ronaldinho.
Okay.
Like out of question. But yeah, I think Brazil, probably like Rio, somewhere like near a beach.
Because I always say to my Brazilian friends that England actually invented the game of soccer, but Brazil made it cool. So a bit like jiu-jitsu, they did that for that as well. But that's interesting. You would say Brazil. I thought you were going to say Argentina somewhere, or
might
maybe,
be controversial for
in
my country people.
South Florida.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. But so touching on that before we go, I guess the relationship between Diego and these like modern icons or more modern icons. But so Ronaldinho, like, what was the relationship between Maradona and Ronaldinho? Was it all love, and like, how, have you ever witnessed it? I don't know.
No, I never personally witnessed it, but he obviously when we'd get together as a young kid, I would express like how much I loved Ronaldinho and the way he played, right? And he told me that he was the only player that made him excited to watch him play, because he said he played the way that he always wanted to play. Ronaldinho didn't ever change the way he played from the moment he started to the moment he retired.
Right.
It was always magic. It was always samba. It was just beautiful football, man. And my uncle, I'm pretty sure, loved the way he played, and they were good friends. They always had good things to say about each other. So to me, it was really important.
Yeah, I think, one of the quotes about street football with Ronaldinho, and a friend of mine who works with him, Ronaldinho says, like, the magic is in the streets. So obviously he's a huge advocate, but I can see the kind of synergies between Maradona and Ronaldinho just in the way they played, with like just pure joy, and it was just captivating to watch even on the TV back in England, and seeing La Liga, and just both of them, what they could do with the ball, and just crazy. Again, Maradona and Messi, what was that relationship like? I know obviously Messi played for the national team under Maradona.
Yeah. I got extremely lucky to be at the center of the 2010 World Cup with my uncle. He brought me along with the team.
Wow.
So I saw training sessions. We had team meals together, all that stuff. The relationship between Messi and my uncle was always good. Messi was just always the quiet guy in the group back then, and my uncle's a big personality, and he would try to just bring it out for him. But from what I saw, the relationship was always good. Even, till the end of his life, they always had good things to say about each other. Obviously, when reporters would try to pick at him about, like, oh, people said this, that Messi's like, you're just egging it on. But my uncle always had nothing but good things to say about him.
Wow. So who is your favorite player now? Young player coming through, like, in the world game, like, who's kind of carrying that torch?
Yeah, Yamal. Yeah. He's, I think, the only player in the last 3-4 years that plays the street game on a pitch, and at a young age, for him to be doing that right now, it's really impressive. And it could only go up from here for him, and I hope it does, because he's the next Ballon d'Or winner. I believe it. Yeah. I believe it.
Yes. I've, like I said, I feel like he's carrying that torch, and he's almost like a dying breed. But just to see someone still playing like that, with that joy, and almost like that child in the street, gives us all hope. Last question. I did say that 20 minutes ago. Who is your favourite English player coming through, maybe?
Coming through, or
playing now, or anybody?
No. I really liked Rooney, but in terms of like like overall, I think Gerrard,
Okay.
Steven Gerrard was.
Well, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I would agree. But with regards to like English players now, like Cole Palmer, what do you think about him?
Oh, he's great too. He's another young up and coming guy. It's funny, ice cold Palmer's true because like he just plays like he doesn't care, and it helps him out a lot. But yeah, he's another good man.
Yeah, well, I think from a English standpoint, you know, we never were the kind of breeding ground for all these like creative players, but we do seem to have quite a few now coming through, which is good for us. So last question: who's going to win the World Cup in 2026?
Brazil maybe. Brazil maybe. England's a good one too. It's a young team. I would say USA, but it really depends on how they do. They're always either really good or.
I know. We'll see that. I don't know about that, but I think that's a stretch. But England, let's hope England win it. Okay.
Hey.
Thiago, pleasure, mate.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.